bring in John Taylor. He's with the Black Male Initiative Fund. He's the executive director because I think this is important. We've been talking a lot about the demographics that might have been either overlooked by one party or a group of folks that have said, over the years, we feel like we have not been heard from enough and you have not talked to us enough. And that has been the Black males. John Taylor, are you with me?
I am with you. Can you hear us?
Yes, we got you. Thank you so much for taking the time. We have been
Our
talking a
pleasure.
lot. We have been talking a lot on this program about messaging and not just messaging, but missed opportunities or perhaps another party, in this case, the Republican Party, being able to make some sort of inroads with black male voters. What do you make of that?
So I think, the reality is that our black male vote is not a monolith. We understand that anywhere from 8 to 14% of black men may choose a conservative path depending on the election cycle, depending on the issues at play, depending on the factors that they face in their life. So it's not unrealistic to think that some black men may attempt to find a home in the Republican Party. What I will say, though, is that what we know to be true is that when black men and black women are lifting up progressive values and are within a 10% margin of one another on turnout, it is typically a good night for progressives.
Devin Barrington Ward, he's speaking your language. What do you say?
Yeah, I think that's true. One of the things that was a little annoying to me about the black male conversation as it pertains to Leader Abrams and her support was if you had listened to the media and didn't really look into some of the numbers and just caught the headlines, you would think that she had lost all of her support amongst black men.
And that wasn't true.
That's not true. What we were talking about was possibly her maybe carrying 88% of black men who showed up to vote, 89, 90%. We would like to see her more in the margins of 90 and above. But I think anything that is in the margins that, John is talking about is a good night for progressives. Absolutely.
Let's talk about, and Dennis has a question too,
No,
but
it's
let's
okay.
talk about going the future here, because again, the turnout, when all this is said and done, we'll look at the numbers, we'll look at the demographics, and we'll say, we expected this from this group, didn't expect this much. And then, but the question is, where do we go from here? And we keep asking that same question every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years. It's the same question, fellas. John?
Yep. So I think where we go is back to the truths. One of the biggest things about our program structure and the way we look at this is that we see voting as one component of a much more robust turnout program to get people involved in their community. If you go out and vote, if you're civically engaged, that is the bare minimum expectation that I have for you, quite frankly. What we want to see you do is engage 365 in your community, and we know that black men do that. We know that black men show up for their children, they show up in the schools, they show up in the community organizations. And so part of what we're working on now is reshaping and recapturing the narrative about what black men do and how we do it in our communities. So if you look at 2023 and we focus on base building and capacity building organizations and programs that will allow us to build a cadre so that when 24 arrives, we'll have a legion of black men that have the opportunity, the space, and the availability to show up in a way that will leave no question about how our capacity impacts these election cycles. And then the last thing I'll say is I've seen a lot of races in my life, and I've never in my life seen a place where the second place group in the race is looked down upon as the worst runner. So if you look at black women, absolutely first place, amazing runners when it comes to progressive politics. But black men are really right there ready to grab a baton in second place. So if we're just realistic about who supports progressive values, if we're realistic about who turns out to the polls, black men are the second highest demographic showing up for progressive values. So it's less about can we activate them and more about can we shrink that margin that Brother Ward is talking about.